Okay, I want you to imagine yourself in a public bathroom, naked, and completely exposed to members of the opposite sex. Although this sounds like a nightmare you wish somebody would just wake you up out of, unfortunately it's a depressing reality for many members in a long-term care facility. This speech, I'm going to present the prevalence of depression in a long-term care facility, and then the most common causes for that depression, as well as practical ways for the primary caregiver to address specific causes of depression, to reduce that depression in the long-term care facility. My sister and Stephanie and I both went through the CNA, or Certified Nurses Assistant training, together and got our certificates, and in the course of that training we had to go to 2 different nursing homes to do our practicals. And one of the first things I noticed when I walked into this nursing home environment was just the depressed countenances of many of the residents there. And then as we began to work alongside the other CNAs, I discovered why they were so depressed. It wasn't that the CNAs were cruel, it wasn't that they were unkind, it was just that there was this consistent lack of respect shown to these individuals. They were treated more childishly than they were with respect and dignity. What I want to show through the course of my speech is how working as a CNA can be used as a platform for reducing stress in a long-term care facility, simply by implementing behaviors that communicate the God-given value of every individual that you work with. The first step for a CNA in reducing depression in a long-term care facility or in the residence is recognizing the legitimacy of their condition. This isn't just old people being grumpy. This is a very serious issue. According to the Science Daily, a science news website, a study of 272 elder adults were done with an average age of 81, and according to that news website, I quote, at the long-term care facility, 30% of the elders reported feeling depressed, as opposed to only 11% who received care in their homes through medical and social services. So this isn't just old people depressed. This is a medical issue directly linked with the long-term care facility. The second step necessary for a CNA to effectively reduce depression in their residents is to recognize the major causes of that depression, and then out of those major causes, pinpoint which one of those major causes the CNA personally can directly address. According to the geriatric depression section from the Journal of Pharmacy Practice, depression was linked to 3 major deals: a sense of self-worth, their current experiences, as well as a very negative view of the future, which makes sense. You know, if you have a very poor self-worth linked to your poor current experiences, it's difficult to have a positive view of the future. Other causes listed for depression in a long-term care facility were listed by the Journal for Clinical Psychology, such as a lack of privacy, being confined to an institution, loss of family members, health issues, physical disability, as well as the knowledge that this long-term care facility will probably be their final home. Pretty dreary prospects for an elder individual. Now, as far as pinpointing the areas that a CNA personally can address, those areas would be areas such as their self-worth, their sense of self-worth. That's something that a CNA can directly impact in the way that they communicate with the individual, in the way that they address them. They can address them with respect and give them valuable input, or at least valuable interaction. Another area where the CNA can directly impact is the area of their current experiences. The CNA essentially dictates the intricacies of daily life for their elder residents, because they're the ones who decide when what's going to happen on a consistent, regular basis. So when the CNA changes the way they address their resident, when they start making the resident's current experience a positive one, they conversely affect their view of the future. You change their current experiences to positive, their view of the future obviously becomes a lot more positive. Another major issue, or a major area where the CNA can directly impact the resident's sense of self-worth, is in meaningful communication or meaningful touch. Dr. Morley Glicken, in his book Resources for the Mental Health Professional, Evidence-Based Counseling and Psychology for an Aging Population, provides evidence that meaningful attention, such as stroking an individual's arm, holding a hand for a while, holding their shoulder, touching a forehead, or simply leaning forward in communication with your residents, communicates value to that individual and promotes a positive sense of self-worth. So as a summary, it's obvious from a medical standpoint that depression is a very serious issue in a long-term care facility. However, many of the major causes of that depression can be directly impacted by the primary caregiver, in this case the CNA. And this can be done when the CNA simply chooses to recognize their residents as a valuable individual, as having been created as a child of God, extending meaningful touch, natural courtesies that we would all expect in this kind of situation, reaffirms to a client that they are still deserving of respect, that assures them of their dignity, and paints a hopeful view of their future. As a conclusion, to wrap up, I want to read a poem that basically sums up everything I covered in the speech from the CNA's point of view, but takes it from an elder's point of view. It's called simply An Old Lady's Poem. It says, "What do you see, nurses? What do you see? What are you thinking when you're looking at me? A crabby old woman, not very wise, uncertain of habit with faraway eyes, who dribbles her food and makes no reply when you say in a loud voice, 'I do wish you'd try.' Who seems not to notice the things that you do, and forever is losing a stocking or shoe, or resisting or not lets you do as you will, with bathing and feeding the long day to fill. Is that what you're thinking? Is that what you see? Then open your eyes, nurse, you're not looking at me. I'll tell you who I am as I sit here so still, as I do at your bidding, as I do at your will. I'm a small child of 10, with a father and mother, brothers and sisters who love one another. A young girl of 16 with wings on her feet, dreaming that soon now a lover she'll meet. A bride soon at 20, my heart gives a leap, remembering the vows that I promised to keep. At 25 now I have young of my own, who needed me to guide in a secure, happy home. A woman of 30, my young grown fast, bound to each other with ties that should last. At 40, my young sons are grown and have gone, but my man's beside me to see I don't mourn. At 50, once more babies play around my knee, and we know children again, my loved one and me. Dark days are upon me, my husband is dead. I look to the future and I shudder with dread. For my young are all rearing young of their own, and I think of the years and the love that I've known. I'm now an old woman and nature is cruel, 'tis just to make old age look like a fool. The body it crumbles, grace and vigor depart, there is now a stone where I once had a heart. But inside this old carcass a young girl still dwells, and now and again my battered heart swells. I remember the joys, I remember the pain, and I'm loving and living life over again. I think of the years, all too few, gone too fast, and accept the stark fact that nothing can last. So open your eyes, people, open and see, not a crabby old woman. Look closer, see me." That's the end of my speech. And here's my crowd, my audience. Here's Amanda. Hi, Amanda. And Larry, and Heather, and Chris.